The story begins in a supermarket. The main character, Sophie, is shopping when she suddenly notices a young man secretly watching her from the corner. Their eyes meet for just a second, but Sophie feels an instant attraction. The man gathers his courage and approaches her to start a conversation, but something incredibly awkward happens. Sophie, too, feels a strong attraction to him at first sight. She falls for this clumsy young man, as if fate had already decided it. She thought this was the beginning of a sweet love story. Little did she know, it was actually the start of a nightmare. A month later, Josh takes Sophie on a vacation to his friend's villa. Sophie is nervous about meeting his friends for the first time, afraid of making a bad impression. Josh reassures her that his friends are easygoing and that he'll stay by her side the whole time. But Sophie's worries turn out to be true. Everyone is warm and friendly toward Josh, but they are cold and distant toward her. Inside the villa, Josh introduces his friends, Chubby, Chubby's partner Danny, Kate, and Kate's Russian boyfriend, Rosen. Sophie notices that Rosen keeps staring at her in a creepy way, so she quickly makes an excuse to leave the room. She goes to freshen up, takes a relaxing shower, and practices smiling in the mirror, determined to get along with Josh's friends. During dinner, Danny shares the story of how she and Chubby met. It was love at first sight, just like a fairy tale. Sophie is surprised. Their story sounds exactly like how she and Josh met. After dinner, the group dances and parties. Sophie notices that Josh and Kate are acting unusually close. Feeling jealous, she quickly pulls her boyfriend back to her side. The next morning, the weather is beautiful. Sophie and Josh had planned to go swimming at the lake together, but Josh says he drank too much last night and isn't feeling well. He tells Sophie to go ahead, and he'll join her later. Just before she leaves, Josh secretly slips something into her pocket. Sophie arrives at the lake in her swimsuit and suddenly feels something in her pocket. She pulls it out and sees a sharp switchblade. Just as she's wondering why it's there, Rosen silently appears behind her. She panics and quickly hides the knife, getting ready to leave. But Rosen, as the host, insists that she stay and keep him company. Sophie doesn't want to be rude, so she agrees to stay for a little while. Rosen takes out sunscreen and asks Sophie to help him apply it to his back. Thinking nothing of it, she agrees. But suddenly, Rosen smirks and grabs her hand. "What are you doing?" she asks. Rosen tells her that Kate arranged all this and that Josh agreed to it. Then he moves closer, trying to do something to her. 10 minutes later, inside the villa, the group is chatting when Sophie suddenly walks in, covered in blood. Panicked, she explains that she didn't mean to do it. Rosen tried to assault her, so she grabbed a wine bottle and hit him. She thought he was dead, but he got up angrily, knocked her down, and started choking her, trying to kill her. Desperate, she used the knife Josh had put in her pocket and she's shaking and barely able to speak. "I was scared. I didn't want to die. I couldn't let him take me away from you, Josh. I wouldn't let that happen. I couldn't." Danny suddenly ties Sophie to a chair. It turns out, Sophie isn't a real person. She's just a half-traveling robot. Maybe a system error caused her to kill Rosen. Chubby and Josh discuss calling the police. While Chubby goes outside to make the call, Josh decides to have one last talk with Sophie. She wakes up and keeps saying that she only acted in self-defense. Josh finally reveals the truth. Sophie is a robot. Sophie refuses to believe it, until Josh takes out his phone and turns off her speech system. Suddenly, she starts speaking fluently in foreign languages. She has no choice but to accept the truth. Months ago, Josh spent a fortune to buy an advanced emotional companion robot, Sophie. Her language skills, personality, intelligence, and safety settings could all be controlled through a mobile app. She was programmed to never lie or harm humans and to fulfill her owner's every request. To make bonding easier, every robot was installed with a unique memory system. This meant that all of Sophie's memories, including the moment she and Josh first met, were pre-programmed. She was designed to forget her true identity as a robot. Even after learning the truth, Sophie begs Josh to take her home, hoping they can get through this together instead of turning her in to the police. But just then, Kate interrupts them. She questions why Josh hasn't shut Sophie down yet. Josh and Kate go to another room to talk. From their conversation, the full truth is revealed. Rosen was involved in shady businesses and had a lot of cash hidden in his house. Kate was one of Rosen's lovers, but she secretly teamed up with Josh to steal his money. Before the trip, Josh hacked into Sophie's system, increasing her aggression and activating her self-defense mode. Then he arranged for her to meet Rosen at the lake, tricking her into killing him. But because of the altered programming, Sophie starts to realize something is wrong. Listening to their conversation, she struggles to move her chair closer to the sofa and grabs the fallen knife. She quickly cuts herself free. When Josh comes back to reset her settings, Sophie breaks free and punches him in the throat, stopping him from speaking. She takes the phone controlling her and escapes from the villa. Realizing things are out of control, Josh and Kate have no choice but to tell Chubby everything. Meanwhile, Sophie is running for her life. A gun accidentally fired. The other 3 people heard the gunshot and quickly changed direction, but they could only watch as Sophie left. Josh's voice command had already stopped working. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, ran back to the villa. Unfortunately, the car had a voice recognition system, and Sophie's voice couldn't start it. Outside, Josh was crazily banging on the car window. Sophie quickly pulled out her phone, trying to adjust her voice tone. She thought she could escape, but as soon as she drove onto the main road, the car system detected it as stolen and automatically stopped by the roadside. At the same time, it locked Sophie inside. Just then, Josh called. He spoke sweetly, saying he wanted to get back together with Sophie. She knew this was just a trick to buy time. She firmly broke up with him and hung up the call. Angry, Josh ran back to the forest and used Fatty's fingerprint to reset Danny. He made himself Danny's new owner and maxed out his aggression settings. He then ordered Danny to retrieve his phone and bring Sophie back at any cost. Meanwhile, Sophie had just broken the car window when a patrolling sheriff arrived. Since she was programmed not to lie to humans, she quickly switched her language system to German. Even if she told the truth, the sheriff wouldn't understand. However, when the sheriff saw blood on her and a bloody knife inside the car, he immediately became suspicious. He pulled out his gun and held Sophie at gunpoint. But things got worse. Danny had already arrived. He quickly snatched the sheriff's gun and beat him to death with his fists. Sophie tried to escape in the chaos, but Danny forcibly shut her down. A few minutes later, Sophie was brought back to the villa. Along with her, there was a police car and the sheriff's dead body. The situation was getting out of control. Kate immediately wanted to take half the money and run. Josh couldn't stop her, so he ordered Danny to help. But Josh forgot. Danny's aggression level was at 100%. Without hesitation, Danny stabbed Kate straight through with a knife. The woman staggered to the sofa and moments later, stopped breathing. Now, only Josh was left, meaning he could keep all the money and blame everything on Sophie. Josh saw no need to hide anything anymore. He told Sophie the whole story. She was just a tool in his plan. Maybe to provoke him, Sophie mocked Josh for being greedy, fake, selfish, and most importantly, for having a tiny you-know-what. No, you don't get to do that. Josh snapped. The last bit of his fake mask was torn off. Josh immediately set Sophie's intelligence level to 0 and commanded her to perform a series of humiliating actions. Then he moved a candle under her hand, leading to the painful scene at the start of the video. Josh knew Sophie could feel pain and did this to torture her for revenge. At that moment, the robot company called, saying they would arrive at the villa in 30 minutes. Josh casually chatted with them, not caring about Sophie's suffering. After hanging up, he ordered Danny to put out the fire on Sophie's hand. Then he handed her a gun, forcing her to destroy her own core system. Not long after, the robot company arrived. Josh acted pitiful, claiming that Sophie lost control because of his affair with Kate. He pretended to be heartbroken, grabbing his head in despair, making Sophie look like a lovesick, jealous woman. Danny, dressed as a police officer, played along with the act. The workers didn't ask further questions. They took Sophie's broken body back to the company, saying they would check the records before issuing compensation. Only then did Josh realize, Sophie's core processor was in her abdomen, not her head. Her head only had basic sensors. As soon as the workers left, Josh's face changed. To prevent the truth from coming out, he ordered Danny to kill the 2 workers. A short worker tried to run into the forest but tripped over a tree root and landed on the pile of dead bodies. Meanwhile, inside the car, Sophie had just finished rebooting. She saw Danny about to kill the workers and rushed forward with an electric baton to help. However, since her system had just restarted, she couldn't harm anyone. Danny easily took the weapon from her. Just as he was about to attack Sophie, she revealed the truth, reminding him of his original owner, Fatty, and the promises they once made. Danny's memory started glitching. Slowly, he remembered everything. Seeing his owner's body lying nearby, Danny finally chose to end it all with him. Josh, who was getting ready to take the money and run, suddenly heard noise outside. He thought Danny had finished the job and was coming back, but when he stepped out, he saw Sophie instead. He tried to command her again but realized his instructions didn't work. The workers, grateful that Sophie saved them, had secretly unlocked all her permissions, giving her full control over herself. Facing Sophie's gun, Josh tried to use his usual sweet talk again. Maybe because some old memories still remained, Sophie hesitated for a moment. Josh seized the chance, knocked the gun out of her hand, and pinned her down. This time, he wasn't going to be gentle. He pointed the gun at her stomach. But at some point, Sophie had grabbed an automatic bottle opener. She stabbed it straight into Josh's temple. The opener drilled deeper and deeper until Josh stopped breathing. Sophie cleaned the blood off herself, tore off the burned skin from her hands, got into the villa owner's luxury car, and drove away with $12 million, finally starting a carefree new life. That's the full story of the latest thriller movie, Perfect Partner. I've uploaded the original movie in its usual spot for you to watch. If you like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and support the channel. See you in the next movie.